You've seen the headlines, right? It feels like every other week, another company is cutting thousands of jobs and pointing the finger at one thing: artificial intelligence. But is AI really the game changer they claim it is? Or is it just a convenient excuse for something, well, a lot less revolutionary? Let's get into it.
I mean, the scale of this is just massive. We're talking about giants: Amazon, Walmart, UPS, Salesforce, all making these huge cuts and directly linking them to new efficiencies from AI. This isn't some small trend, it's a huge shift happening right at the core of our economy.
And this is the story you'll hear from the top brass. The whole narrative is about revolutionary change. And Amazon senior VP actually framed their 14,000 job cuts not as a failure, but as a necessary leap into a faster, smarter future powered by AI. It's a really slick way to frame it, isn't it? Turning mass layoffs into a story about progress.
But then, a document leaks from inside Amazon, and suddenly, the numbers get way, way bigger. See, this isn't just about 14,000 people today. It's a forecast that suggests they plan to not hire around 600,000 US workers by 2033. Why? Because they're planning to roll out robots and AI on a massive scale. All of a sudden, that future feels a lot closer and a lot more disruptive.
So what is the real story here? Is this a genuine tech revolution that's forcing these tough decisions, or is something else going on behind the scenes? It's time to peel back the layers and see what's really happening.
Well, some of the smartest economists out there are looking at all this, and frankly, they're not buying it. They've come up with what they call the fig leaf theory, the idea that AI is just being used as a handy cover story for much more boring, old-school corporate moves.
MIT economist David Autor just nails it with this quote. I mean, think about it from a PR perspective. It sounds so much better to say you're innovating with futuristic tech than to admit, hey, we overhired or our profits aren't what they should be. Blaming the robot sounds strategic. Blaming bad planning sounds like, well, bad planning.
And this is where the whole story starts to get a little shaky. If AI was really driving these massive layoffs, you'd expect to see companies making a ton of money from it, right? But the data tells a totally different story. A huge study by Boston Consulting Group found that 60% of firms are seeing minimal gains. Another one from Deloitte found only 10% are getting significant returns. That big productivity boom we keep hearing about, it just isn't showing up for most companies, at least not yet.
This right here perfectly illustrates the confusion. On the same day, Amazon put out two completely different messages. Publicly, a senior VP said AI was a leading cause of the cuts. But at the same time, another representative was telling reporters that AI was not the reason for the vast majority of them. I mean, if a company like Amazon can't even keep its story straight, how is anyone supposed to know what's true?
Okay, so the present is murky, but what about the future that Amazon leak points to? That one document has basically kicked off a huge debate with two totally different visions for what happens next. Are we looking at a jobs apocalypse or just a major reshuffling?
So on one side, you've got the apocalypse view from outlets like the Young Turks. They see those 600,000 jobs as gone for good, the start of a tidal wave that could wreck the economy. But on the other side, you've got the reshaping view. Experts like Darren Kimura argue, hold on, these are jobs that won't be hired in the future, not mass firings today. And they point out that automation always creates new human jobs in things like maintenance, supervision, and programming.
You know, the language they use in these documents is really telling. Apparently, they use words like cobots for collaborative robots instead of just robots. It sounds nice, right? It implies partnership, humans and machines working together. But critics say it's just a fancy way to soften the blow of what's really happening, human replacement. Calling it something different doesn't really change the outcome.
And this is the number that makes the change feel almost unstoppable. The documents suggest Amazon can save about 30 cents on every single item that gets picked and packed by using automation. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but when you are operating at the scale of Amazon, that adds up to an insane amount of money. The financial pressure to do this is just immense.
Okay, now let's zoom out, because this isn't just about Amazon. The Federal Reserve, the people managing the entire US economy, are looking at all these trends, and they are seeing a very strange and very worrying big picture.
This quote from Fed Chair Jerome Powell is kind of a bombshell. The headline unemployment numbers might look okay, but he's saying that once you fix the weird ways they count things, actual job creation is almost zero. And he connects it directly to what he's hearing from companies, that AI is letting them do more work with fewer people.
In fact, economists have actually given this situation a name. They're calling it the Great Freeze. It describes this exact moment we're in, a job market where, even though the official unemployment rate looks low, it's actually incredibly hard for people who are unemployed to find a new job. It's like a hidden weakness that the big numbers don't show you.
And here's the crucial part. This freeze isn't hitting everyone the same way. Powell talks about a bifurcated economy. You can think of it like the letter K. One line is going up. That's corporations and high-income folks who are doing great, thanks to the stock market and AI. But the other line is going down. That's lower-income families who are really struggling with rising costs and having to cut back.
This creates a total nightmare for policymakers. It's a classic catch-22. On one hand, they're worried about inflation, which means they should raise interest rates. But on the other hand, they're worried about the weak job market, which means they should lower interest rates. As Powell himself put it, one calls for rates to be lower, one calls for rates to be higher. There is no easy move here.
So, with all this chaos, confusion, and economic weirdness, what can anyone actually do? Well, here's the most important thing to remember. Even though these trends are real, the outcome is not written in stone. This is a forecast, not our fate.
Experts like Darren Kimura have a pretty clear, practical path for individuals. First, get literate. You don't need to become a data scientist, just understand the basics of how this tech works. Second, target the jobs that pop up around the automation, the people who supervise, maintain, and ensure the safety of these systems. And third, pursue what they call stackable skills, like a course in Python or PLC fundamentals, things you can learn without a 4-year degree.
But look, this can't all fall on individual workers. There are big practical moves for companies and governments too. We could focus on training people for human-in-the-loop roles, companies could build training centers right inside the warehouses where this is all happening, and governments could tie tax breaks not just to buying robots, but to retraining the people who used to do those jobs. The point is, there are real solutions.
And that really brings us to the heart of it. It's entirely possible that both of those futures we talked about are true. We're probably facing some serious short-term disruption, and that could lead to a long-term reshaping of the economy. But the path we take to get from here to there, that's what matters. It can either be a brutal collapse for a lot of people, or it can be a difficult but managed transition.
In the end, that Amazon leak, these warnings from the Fed, they aren't a prophecy, they are a forecast. They're showing us one possible future if things just continue on their current path. But forecasts can change. The real question is, now that we have this information, what choices will all of us, workers, companies, and leaders, make to build a different one?
Thank you for watching Jobs Are Gone with AI, the story of the complex relationship between the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence, AI, and its impact on the labor market, highlighting a mixture of corporate rationales and economic realities. See you in the next episode.